All right, guys, welcome back to Driving Life. This week, man, we've got a great guest. I've wanted to have this guest on for a while, Donovan, and we did have, I guess, his workmate on, Jason Rittenberry, back in the spring. But now we've got, I guess, is your title CEO?
That is.
Matt Cruz from the Music City Grand Prix. But, Matt, we're going to get to how you kind of got involved. But, man, when I was doing some research on this, you were actually a place kicker. And I want to get into the mindset because that's a little bit like a driver too. Like when you've got to go and kick a winning field goal, because weren't you like the most points like scored at MTSU or something?
That's
like
because I couldn't do anything else back at the time. So, and it's interesting, years later, my son went on to be a place kicker at Father Ryan and then at John Carroll in Cleveland, Ohio. And the very first game he played in, the first thing I called my parents and apologized. I'm like, my God, I can't believe I put you guys through that for 6 years. I was like, it was a great learning experience. It obviously taught you teamwork. It got me to college. It got me into my life after college, which I would have not had the opportunity had not been for football. So it's been great. And one of the cool things, and we'll get into it eventually, but one of the great things is leaving college, go off and working in NASCAR for several years. Got somewhat detached from my alma mater, MTSU, in Murfreesboro. And it's been great over the last 3 or 4 years to really involve them in the Grand Prix in so many different levels. And we can talk about it later, but it's been great to kind of rebuild those relationships. And the Grand Prix was kind of the catalyst of reaching back out and really using the Grand Prix to two things. I mean, show off their concrete science program, which is untouched in America, and our recent association with the Charlie and Hazel Daniels Veterans Foundation at MTSU. So it's been great to use this platform we have at the Grand Prix to kind of reconnect with me back to my alma mater. So.
Well, see, and that's we talk about that a lot, Matt, with the relationships that you build and how you can circle back around to those relationships after years. and bring it back into what you're passionate about, and then it ties together. Which is, I mean, that's the fun part. That's what we like to get into is like, okay, how does this start, and then how does it circle back? Because there's just it's crazy how life works sometimes, where it puts you in the place to go back and revisit things that you dreamt about when you were a kid.
Well, and it's also fun to me to take platforms or opportunities that you have to kind of not help others, but to kind of reconnect with others, and that's I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that, and that's it's been cool. And not just this, but in several other opportunities, motorsports in general have allowed me to rekindle relationships, make friends. It's super cool. For a little kid from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So you talk about the place kicking. How's your mind work when you got to go kick a winning field goal? I've never been I've been like leading the race with one lap to go, but I mean, when you've got the games on the line and you're kind of like on your own island a little bit.
Some days better than others. Much like racing, I guess.
Yeah.
Ultimately, my thing was always just repetition. I mean, my confidence came from repetition. And probably now, again, 30 years later, it's different now. I mean, kids now, they kick 30 to 40 balls a day. We were probably kicking 300. It was just everything was volume. So to me, that's where it came from, was just repetition. Looking back, like most, like athletics in general, I think they've learned a better way to train and a better way to do things. But it's just repetition. And funny enough, I was pre-video. So, I mean, other than like old school,
you never got to watch yourself.
But as far as, so now, I mean, I was watching my son go through it. I mean, look, we're on an iPhone, and I mean, we're breaking down every, 1,000th of an inch back when he was kicking. I was like, God, I never saw that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So it's evolved, and but yeah, mindset, who knows? I mean, again, I was better at times and worse at times. So I had one good year.
Well, then, so you go through your kicking career, and as I kind of read up on some stuff, is you went to Atlanta after your last game, and is that where you kind of get hooked, or were you like already hooked on cars before that?
Well, yes and no. So like most people, my brother was a year older, and he was my hero. And I was a sports guy. He was a motorsports guy. And so it was as much as, hey, my brother would think I'm cool if I liked racing. And I did like racing, but that was not my passion by any stretch. So he literally, I remember we went to Atlanta the day after my last game, my last regular season game at MTSU. Saw Earnhardt won the championship that day. And it just kind of, first of all, I saw in his eyes how passionate he was. And I knew he had helped support my racing, or my football dream. I mean, he helped me go to school. I mean, he was so supportive. And kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, it'd be kind of cool if he could race at some point in time. And then through kicking, through kind of the NFL evaluation process, I met at the time Davey Allison's nephew Joey, which got introduced to the Allisons, and now I was like, I don't know what it means, but at least I know Davey Allison.
Yeah, Hueytown, Alabama.
Yeah, literally, Liz. So Liz Allison, Davey's widow, is one of the biggest parts of our organization, and she and I laughed about it. We literally had lunch almost 10 days before Davey's accident. So it was right around that time frame. And ultimately, in my mind, I was going to go to work for the Allisons, and that was going to be my career. And obviously, circumstances changed that. And a couple years later, I'm driving. It's like Nolensville. There's like a car for sale on the side of the road, and I knew nothing about cars. So I bought a car and told my brothers, "Hey, we're going to race," and he knew nothing. And bless his heart, I mean, literally, some of the worst cars ever, but some of the most fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so much fun doing that with him, and we got a little smarter year after year. But it was just watching him getting to kind of live his dream, because he'd helped me live my dream, and it was cool for me. I mean, we were terrible, but man, it was fun. We were pretty good at. I was decently good at getting sponsors, and I had a sponsor that I was trying to get probably a set of tires. And he's like, "I want to spend more. I was at Daytona last year, and they raced those dash cars on Friday. Could we do that?" I'm like, "Well, sure." So
I want to spend more. I can help you with that.
Yeah, I can help you with that for sure.
We can make that happen.
Racing.
So we go buy a dash car, and we may or may not have falsified a resume to get my brother approved.
I was going to say, how did you get that by NASCAR?
Some whiteout.
Go to Daytona, and then when you're there, this is back in the old days, you're there for 2 weeks. You're there for 2 weeks, and it was like, that's the coolest thing in the world.
How was it when you so Donovan, you probably remember these. It ran the V6, I think, right?
Yeah, so we were like in that first year, we went from the 4s to the 6s.
Yeah. And so the dash was like, I guess, really to be before the Xfinity Series for drivers to come up as a regional deal and stuff. And I mean, how was it walking in Daytona when you knew you whited out stuff for your resume to get in there?
So first day we barn radios. We don't have a stopwatch, but we bought like the best car. We bought the car from a guy named Mike Swain, senior Mike Swain Jr., that won the race the year before. So we this is gonna be a long story. So anyway,
that's fine. We get plenty of time. We're good.
So we go to we go to practice. I go up on the spotter stand, and car goes by a couple of times. I asked Brian, "How's it feel?" I was like, "I don't know how it's supposed to feel." So a guy nudged me. He's like, "Hey, you're fastest." I was like, "What?" My brother's like, "Hey, we're fast." He's like, "I guess it feels good then."
I'm just holding it wide open.
So then we go. So again, this shows why I have no business being around cars. So we go. So I'm going back and forth. There's a guy, and I wish I could think of his name. He ran the parts trailer, and because we're ill prepared, I'm going there every 5 minutes.
Right.
We're buying everything.
Like the BRX trailer or something
it was a guy that was just in that series. So he showed me the tire pressures. No, I'm take that back. I'm sorry. I got tire pressures from Goodyear. It was recommended was 60 and 55 or something like that. So we get through Daytona. We ran good because, again, you just hold it wide open, qualified 10th. So we go to Bristol and miss the race. We go to, I think, Myrtle Beach and miss the race. And I think we're at Lakeland, Florida. And I don't know what we're doing. I mean, so literally I go, I'm talking to the parts guy. I was like, "What are we doing?" So he's looking at my notes. He's like, "What are these numbers?" I'm like, it's like 60, 55. I was like, "Well, that's our tire pressures." He's like, so we had run 3 races. Well, we probably should have been like 18.
Yeah, they're like balloons. And when you said that, I was like, "Man, they're gonna be."
He's like, "Where did you get those?" I was like, "Well, from Goodyear." I was like, "When?" I was like, "What, Daytona?" He's like, "Well, they changed from race to race." So I made a career decision.
Did you write that down? They change tire pressures.
Track to track.
I made a career decision to get out of the crew chiefing business at that point in time. It was fun, though. Could you imagine?
Oh, man.
But that's back in the days when you could do that, right? And, because it doesn't cost you a small fortune to race.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, it's so much fun getting to see that. And then after a couple of years, I had an opportunity to go work with Williams Energy to kind of be part of their, bigger program as they went into NASCAR. And Colin Brown's like, "Hey, I think we're probably done." And I don't know who was more relieved, he or I, but I think we were both pretty well
fun while it lasted.
Yeah, it was good times.
I mean, this first track, he goes to Daytona.
Yeah. And runs good.
It runs good.
We had run a handful of races at Huntsville Speedway prior to that, but
okay.
I think we would get lapped every 4 laps, sometimes 5. So.
But then they probably
creative writing.
What was the headlines of the guys he used to race against at Huntsville? Oh my gosh, top of the sheet.
I know, that's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, That's awesome. That is so funny. So I mean, after that, like, so the crew chiefing thing, the air pressure caught you off guard. So I mean, just stayed in the marketing side after that.
Yeah, probably so. That's probably a better angle for me. So again, it got to be part of. To me at the time was, kind of not the gold standard, but Bruco was such a not game changer, but what they did in the Busch Series for a small team starting in Central City, Kentucky, to growing to this day. I mean, Bruco Marketing Group is, one of the premier event marketing companies in the world. I mean, they'll do 3,000 event days annually, and it started just by at the time a one-car Busch team with Timberwolf Tobacco, and Timberwolf asked, "Hey, can we sample product at the racetrack?" And now, I mean, somewhere today they're doing 20 events for Bruco across the country and doing events for IBM in Europe. So, but it all started at just a little team out of Central City, Kentucky, which was cool. Which was more, the marketing aspect was so much cooler to me. So I loved kind of that vision, helping grow Bruco into what it is, and then had a chance to, over the course of time, part of the team was sold, came to Nashville. I never left Nashville, but came to Nashville to run Baker Curb as Bruco sold off the racing piece of Bruco, came here, and so got a chance to be back on the racing side again. But been in my blood forever. I tell people, if you're in racing for more than 3 years, you're unqualified to do anything else. So you better figure out a way to keep doing it
to make it work. Yeah. I get that for sure. You talk about that was interesting because I knew when you were at Bruco that Bruco, had the motorsports division, but had like a marketing side to it, and that's what they're still doing today. I mean,
incredible. Bruco Marketing Group is they're probably one of the leaders in event marketing, event activation. They probably had 6 or 7 pieces of equipment in and around the Grand Prix, but again, this is they do big brands, McDonald's, IBM, General Motors. So any race you go to, if you're in the garage and you see a General Motors or a Chevrolet Engineering trailer, that's Bruco. I mean, that's it's a little company out of Central City, Kentucky, doing that. So from NASCAR to IMSA to IndyCar.
Is it all just motorsports related?
No. It started that was kind of the linchpin, but no, it's grown well past that.
Yeah.
I mean, IBM is all about cybersecurity protection on a global scale. McDonald's is kind of all over the board.
Yeah.
But at their core, it started at motorsports, and that they'll always have a strong presence there.
No, I didn't realize that at the time that they had a separate division that they do now, and obviously they're traveling to a bunch of our stuff and doing displays or whatever they're doing in the paddock area. So Bruco gets sold off, and then you come here with but you were living in Nashville even while you were working for Bruco.
I bounced around a little bit. I was kind of in the Clarksville area for a little bit, but I grew up in Lawrenceburg, but I've sort of been Nashville's been home base for 30 years, and anybody knows me, I wear my Nashville pride on my sleeve, so I'm all things Nashville. Got to see this city become what it's become, and I always said that from day one with our races. We just got to get it close because Nashville will take care of the rest.
Oh, yeah.
And when you say, it's all about fan experience, and I said, don't mess it up on our side of the water, because once they go on the other side of the water, downtown's going to take care of our guests.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's incredibly proud.
Well, that's we've talked about that quite a bit, that, Nashville knows how to throw a party. So that part of it was a shoe-in, I guess, so to speak. So,
and I always thought if half the people leave our event and never see a car, we did our job. And that's always what this has been about. And again, as I shared with you guys earlier, I'm probably not the biggest race fan in the world, but I love Nashville. I love the event aspect of it. I don't hate racing, but again, it's if this was just a race, we'd be sitting here talking about a restart line or a passing zone versus wow, I saw Vince Neil play 3 songs and I did this. And that's what the vision has always been. Yeah. And I think for the most part, we hit that mark in year 1.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, you attended all 3 days.
I did.
There.
Yeah, and the thing that just the way it was set up, and again, maybe you can go into some detail about how it progressed from the idea stage to where it ended up. But Nashville, the way that was set up, and to be down by Nissan and have the pedestrian bridge just to feed right into that. I can remember Saturday night when I was walking out after the SRO race, I believe was the last one on Saturday night. There were still people walking in to go down to the concert. Yeah. So I mean that's the part of it where you're talking about the city, the entertainment aspect of it was not that it's going to take care of itself, but I mean it's kind of a no-brainer in Nashville.
Well, the other thing too is it's all about fan experience, and you can only control so much. So I'll use some. I won't name venues, but obviously traffic is a huge part of any venue. Mm-hmm. So if you can eliminate the drive to the track, park, enjoy, walk back to parking, drive aspect to I'm flying to Nashville. I'm going to Uber downtown, and
Yep.
4 days later,
That's
I'm
it.
moving back to the airport.
Yep.
And I'm going to spend a lot of time on property, but on my walk back, I'm going to stop in 3 bars
That's
and
it.
hear great music.
That's it. I parked at our office, which is, you know, up in the Gulch, and I Ubered down one day. I walked down the next day and walked through, you know, down Broadway. It was great.
It was great.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, there's not very many venues. There's not very many places where you can do that and have that opportunity. I mean, I had no problem with traffic or parking or anything.
It's good. I'm glad you said that, because I've you know, from the outside, well, not from the outside looking, but I've not heard any traffic and or parking complaints. And that's when you know, when you close a major thoroughfare into downtown like we did. I was expecting that, but I may be looking at it through what's good for our event, but I never saw that nor heard that. And I think that's just, we're different than a football game in that, you know, football game, and I don't know what the percentage is, but probably 75 to 80% are Nashvilleians that are driving in versus, you know, we're a destination.
Yeah.
And it'll be a bigger destination next year. I mean,
Yep.
next year, you know, I don't know if you bought hotels for next year yet, but I buy hotels for next year.
The prices are going up.
Yeah.
They're already expensive, but
Yeah. So that's cool. And that just adds to the fan experience that, you know, that we can. I'll use Kentucky Speedway as an example. To me, coming from the Busch/Nationwide Series, that was the gold standard of tracks for us. It was great racing, great concessions. We had sold-out crowd every race.
Been there.
80,000 people, unbelievable. So they go to Cup for the first time ever. The following year, I think they maybe added 10,000, 20,000, but not a lot. And the traffic debacle there, and it was just a couple little mistakes, I'm assuming. It's out of business now.
Yeah.
So you get one chance to make a first impression. And things like that, which are, I'm not saying they were out of the track's control, but it was probably not really in their control. I'll use, I think it turned out being a great event, but I'll use the NASCAR races event. They had, you know, an issue with kind of how parking flew and things like that, and that's probably not so much on them, but you know, there's probably other things that cause that. And, you know, that's the beauty of our race, is having that downtown walkability of it. So
no, I agree. Yeah. So let's back up a little bit if we can. Let's go back to, you know, when you first, like, what brought you into bringing, I know the marketing side of it for you, but to be involved in the political landscape and bringing a race to Nashville, because this wasn't the first attempt.
No.
So let's take us back and kind of walk us through how you got involved in that, and what brought you to that, and what was the impetus behind.
Well, it started a couple of different things. Obviously, being around motorsports, you saw events like this work. I spent a lot of time in Toronto, and Toronto does an incredible downtown event around their soccer stadium. You know, we at Bruco do stuff around the Long Beach Grand Prix. So you've seen it work in other cities. And it kind of goes back to being a very proud Nashvilleian. It's like, I always knew Nashville through great events. So this goes back 7 years. So at the time, one of my good friends, our president, Chris Parker, was with the Nashville Predators. He had done a little bit of work with the San Jose Grand Prix when he was with the San Jose Sharks before he came to Nashville. So we kicked the tires a little bit. I mean, when I say a little bit, you know, meeting with Sports Council, some conversations with Jay Fry, but not enough to really, really push it too far. Conversation with the Titans, obviously, because we have relationships there. So I didn't really push it as far as, you know, we should have. So about a year and a half later, I get a call from Joe Mattioli. Joe, I've known Joe and his family on the Pocono, you know, Raceway. We as a company, my marketing company, had done some work with them. And he and another gentleman were trying to bring a race here. And in his conversations, hey, you got to talk to Matt, because he's kind of done this a little bit. So I started working with Joe, and you know, and for various reasons, you know, we had from the time we started to today, it's probably our 4th mayor. I mean, there was a lot of things moving around at the time. And it got, you know, it had some momentum and hit stopped, and had momentum and hit stopped. And, you know, finally, you know, it was probably dead. You know, Joe had decided to go do other things. So it was kind of last man standing. And, you know, a couple things about 3 years ago kind of picked it back up again. The city had gotten better. I mean, from the time we started, I think the NHL All-Star game was one big, and then the draft. And then it was like, okay, this is real. Yeah. Now the one constant from day one has kind of been Butch Spiridon from the Convention and Visitors Corporation, kind of really, really always having his arms around it. So that was always kind of an important piece. But then we just kind of started putting the, you know, so what else do we have to do to prove? And it's, okay, you got to put the financial piece together. So, you know, just started trying to put, you know, backers behind it. And, you know, not just financial, but also supportive. So Kix Brooks is a great example. Kix has been there from day one. Anytime we need to meet with the mayor or have a dinner with IndyCar, Kix is like, what can I do to be there? Scott Borchett was very early on, being not just a vocal supporter, but a financial supporter. Great contention out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Teddy Phillips, the Phillips and Jordan families, incredible company out of Knoxville. Clayton Homes, or Kevin Clayton, who's the CEO of Clayton Homes. So we started to at least putting together a structure that felt like that we could go forward. And then as things happen, Roger Penske buys IndyCar. So now it's like, well, Roger just it's probably 2 years ago this week or around this time, Mark Miles, gentleman Stephen Starks, who was over the schedule at that point in time, were in town. Incredible couple of days of meetings. Met with Butch, met with the mayor at the time. They leave town. They all feel good that this could work. And I think a day later he calls like, hey, just told Roger Penske about IndyCar. So, and right now, there's not really going to be, we're not talking schedule expansion. We're talking about, how do we bring, Indianapolis Motor Speedway back to its prominence. And then, so we're just, we're treading
starting
water.
Over again now.
We're treading water. And then COVID hits. And it's like, hey, Roger's not going to take meetings until after the Indy 500 because that is his passion, which is fine. I mean, he spent a lot of money to restore that place, and it's incredible what he did. So you're kind of treading water, and you're just trying to, hey. So we kept pushing. Then the 500 gets moved back 3 months. Yeah. So now, I mean, for us, we're out of time at this point in time. If we can't announce at least 11 months prior, so it's all about this time frame right now. So
you got a lot of work to do on top of that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So, Roger, we I think we convinced him, maybe off a day or two. We did convince him to come to town. I'm sorry, we convinced him to take a meeting at least prior to the 500.
Yeah, didn't you fly up there? I read something
So we took,
that Butch played a big part of this.
Butch, there were several people that played an incredible role, and that was a bad day to start with. So when we got there, Mr. Penske had just been informed that the state of Indiana or the Indiana Health Organization was not allowing any fans for the Indy 500.
So you're like, oh, man.
We walk in the room, it's cold.
You just feel it.
Cold
the tension.
Yeah, cold is not a strong enough word to describe what that room was like. And we had one of our investors told an incredibly funny story. Mr. Penske started laughing. It's just funny stuff that happened that day. It's funny. So, and the same gentleman was sitting next to Bud Danker, who is Mr. Penske's chief of staff, and his phone's on the table, and he gets a phone call from Bobby Ritchie, Kid Rock. So Bud looks down, and Bud Danker very buttoned down. He's like, "You know Bobby?" He's like, "Yeah, he's one of my good friends." He's like, "Mr. Penske, Bobby's got us all." So that was another icebreaker as well, which is so funny. Just the randomness of that.
Yeah.
So some Detroit guys connecting, and
thanks to Kid Rock.
It changed. It sort of changed the room.
Yeah.
Timing is everything.
So then we get, we at least convinced him to come see the city. And it had been a while since Mr. Penske had seen the city. And
it's changed a
little bit.
Yeah.
So I remember we come over we kind of, as you come in from the airport, you come in, you start to see the cranes. It's all of a sudden, it's like, it's changed a little bit. So we go to meet the governor, and, Mr. Penske really quick said, I can't wait. I was like, hey, let's play it coy. Let's act like we need the state to help us. And Mr. Penske, I can't wait to bring IndyCar here. This is, this is going to be great. So, but Roger at his core is still a racer, so he still wanted to really, really understand the track. And we did about a 15-minute track tour, and we had a meeting set up inside Nissan Stadium. We had about 2 hours of stuff to present, and about 15 minutes into it, he's like, I've seen enough. Let's just go racing. I was like, done. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And somebody from our group said something, and Mark Miles said, hey, I learned something 9 months ago when Mr. Penske said it's time to go racing. It's time to go racing. So we will not be taking questions at this point.
Yeah, and I've heard
Let's just move forward.
I've heard that about him. I mean, I've never had to deal with them, but as far as like a photographer for like the 500 or something, they may have won that year, so they take the Monday after. And he walked up to the photographer, you got one shot at this.
Yeah.
You're like, you better get it right, and I'm out of here. So when he says, let's go racing in 15 minutes, you got it. Let's go.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, again, as a kid that's grown up in racing, just, to walk down pit road and have Mr. Penske, wave you over to talk, it's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, how can that not be?
Yeah.
That's not kind of cool.
It's a neat thing. Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool.
Well, and I'll leave out some adjectives, but one of our owners, and I'll leave his name out too. So we dropped off Mr. Penske after this day. So we take him out to drop him off at the airport, and he's like, we're in business with Roger Penske.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, we are.
take them down to Tootsie's or Legends that day?
No, it was funny though. So the prior trip though, when Mr. Miles and Steven Starks and some others were in town, it was like a Tuesday morning, random Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock, in September. So not, as a Nashvilleian, not a busy day. And they were staying at the Renaissance, and we were even on Broadway. We were like a block off Broadway meeting for breakfast. It was like, what is going on here today? I'm like, it's called Tuesday.
It's just a normal Tuesday.
It's just Tuesday. Yeah.
What are the pellet taverns going around? What's going on here?
Yeah, it was funny watching. I was walking over the bridge on Friday morning, I guess, and you saw some crew members that probably weren't walking. I was like, hey, guys, be careful. Broadway will hit back. So
it will. Big time, and you won't show up the next day.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Yeah.
I may have walked down that path a time or two.
A few times.
Yeah.
Well, as Nashvilleians.
Makes you a veteran.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, because I'm from here, born and raised here, and I know, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get to race here, but I'm so happy to see this here. Yeah. And I've expressed that when we had Jason on, that I knew the city could do it.
Yeah.
And what the city means to you and means the same to me as a race driver and a fan of it also at the same time. Just to go down there on Sunday and watch a little bit of it, I was so happy just to see cars going around and the event,
to me,
pulled it off.
Yeah, and to me, knowing we're again as a Nashvilleian, to know that we're broadcast in 160 to 170 countries, I would argue that last 20 minutes on Sunday night with the sun setting,
that was the money shot.
Those cars on the bridge,
Nashville
has never had a better, on a global scale, best postcard ever.
Absolutely.
And that's incredibly proud to get to be a small part of bringing that to the world. So,
yeah, no, I agree, and just the event itself, we knew if everything came together, and there were some challenges, and maybe we can talk a little bit about, leading up to the event, and because you had a small time frame, and then this little thing called COVID happens, and how does that all play together? Like, what's going through your mind as so you've got this deal done, and you're moving forward, and so you've got to,
we, for right or wrong, I mean, we had a 10-month window to get it done. So, we were never, we were in the office every day. I mean, we couldn't just, and again, thankfully we never had any issues from a COVID issue internally with our staff.
Right.
But we just didn't have any wiggle room. And, I felt really, really good, mid-April, May. I was like, hey, these numbers are great. But really, as we started getting into June, I was like, oh, this is getting, a bit concerning.
Yep.
But again, we had one shot, and you just couldn't halfway do it. You couldn't like, hey, here's our contingency plan. Our contingency plan is not to have a contingency plan.
Right.
Let's pull this off. Again, it's when you've gone too far and you burnt your bridge behind you can't go backwards.
Well, that's just it. So I mean, if you would have backed off your original plans and what your vision was from the get go for something that you don't know that's going to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and you're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah.
You're.
Yeah, and I'm not. And again, I have no idea. This is outside looking in, but I think the CMA Festival this year too. They canceled in April, and I think by the time their event would have happened, I think it would have probably been a reasonable time to have an event. But again, that's not my business or their business, and I just hate it. I mean, we're seeing with it at Bonnaroo this weekend, not a COVID issue, but a weather issue. You just hate it for the fans. You just hate it for, God. I mean, money's hard. I mean, the amount of money it takes to go experience these things, it's tough, and to see a cancellation like that. I mean, obviously it'd be tough for us as promoters, but again, we've got an ownership group that they're big boys that understand the risk of doing business, and it's the fans who are plopping down money. I mean, not that this means anything, but I'm literally supposed to be in Holland today. My son and I have been planning a trip to Europe for the last year. We were flying to Belgium on Thursday, going to the Grand Prix this weekend, going to the Dutch this weekend, going to the Italian next weekend, and we canceled, Tuesday of last week just because, having to get tested, crossing, 5 different borders. I was like, I don't like first experience in Europe being in quarantine and in Brussels. So, so I like that for all fans because I'm somewhat kind of experiencing that right now as well. Yeah. Now watching the Grand Prix this weekend, it rained all weekend. I was pretty happy to be in my house.
But it didn't even happen.
Two laps of it.
Two laps, but basically
it was so funny. So our trip plans were, spending kind of the very high end weekend with a team. For one of the races, kind of having a more fan experience at one, but the first one was going to be, hey, let's camp. So we were to camp this weekend, and I heard one of the commentators who's done 250 Formula One races, like, this is consistently the worst weather they've ever had for 3 days of a Grand Prix ever. So.
I'm glad we canceled.
Right.
All right, so the F1 trip got canceled. And
so
you were going to go somewhere else, and it's not looking too good
like,
either.
hey, let's fly to Reno or fly to Tahoe and then drive to Monterey. And it's like, well, Tahoe's on fire right now. So so we're probably going to Columbia, Tennessee or something.
Yeah.
Hey, it's still good.
We're going to Leapers Fort.
Leapers Fort, yeah. Go down and see Kid Rock.
Go see Kid Rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy times. But, you know, hope to still get out. I mean, I do want to get out to, obviously, to Monterey and to Long Beach to see IndyCar finish up the year. And I mean, obviously, Monterey or Long Beach is, you know, they've been the gold standard forever. And if we can take two tidbits back to make our event better, we'd love to do that.
Well, that's what I mean. We've been saying it all along that this is going to be the Long Beach of the East Coast, you know, the east side of the Mississippi. And I think year one, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the assessment afterwards. You know, what we know the things that I thought were really good, and there were some challenges there as well. But kind of walk us through since the event. You know, what have you been up to, and how is it looking? You know, like, what did you take away, and what are you looking for next year?
I mean, you want to, you know, the key that the event happened, that the track's doable, the build times within the time we have are doable. You know, there's not traffic issues. Now it's just how to make it better. I mean, is there a better place to place beverage stands? To me, everything's about fan experience. So getting people through security, you know, better access to food and beverage, better experiences. I think the one thing that we have learned is there is definitely a market for higher end type experiences, entertainment suites. So how do we make that better? How do we get more suites? I mean, you know, that's, we laugh about it. I mean, the waiting list we have for corporate suites is crazy, but being a temporary venue, I mean, we have a limited time to build and tear down. So we're just trying to make that better. We're trying to make, you know, just the thing that from the, if I bought a $119 GA up to a $5,000 club membership, I want to make sure they all had the same experience or expectation for what they spent. And we hit the mark on a lot of things. I'm not saying that, but we also missed on a few things, and we want to, you know, our customers are our lifeblood, and we want to make sure we, you know, we don't just pump our chest and read that we're the most watched race in, you know, IndyCar history and we're the next Monaco and all the things. Those are great.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've got to always focus on, okay, how do we be perfect?
Yeah, you always got to sharpen the pencil, right? Sure. And go back to it. So, and that's the one thing. I was with friends that have never been to, on Sunday when I went to the Grand Prix, that have never been to an IndyCar event. And the whole weekend, they were just blown away by it. I mean, it was really cool to be around people. I'm a lifelong race fan. I've been to tons of races, whatever. So for me, it was awesome, right? Sure. I just get to go and enjoy it. But I kind of sat back and just watched these people like digging it. I mean, they're high-fiving in the stands. I mean, you know, sweating, and everybody's. It was a good time. They had a great time, and it was fun for me to watch them. And I think I heard that from a lot of people that I talked to. You know, just bumping into to random, you know, people that I knew just walking through. I was like, oh, I didn't know you were a race fan. No, I'm not, but I'm here.
That's
so
cool
it's,
to say.
you know, yeah.
So let me ask you. So for a newbie, what was the thing they enjoyed the most?
Well,
I know what you're going to say, and it's going to drive me crazy. But
the trucks.
No, exactly.
Well, and we told a funny story. So, and you probably know about this story maybe already. But we told it with Ken when we had Ken on for the review of the Trans Am weekend. So Scott had the deal outside the Cumulus radio station, I guess. So I was sort of outside of the thing. But the guy stops in the truck.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear about this?
No, but I can only imagine.
Okay, I can't remember the guy's name, but
I know exactly who it is.
You know who it was. He was running last.
Depending on what he does, I know exactly who it was.
So he every time he kept coming by, he kept trying to do he was dead last. He was going to get lapped. He kept trying to like get it sideways and all this stuff, and the front end torn off of it. And so he stops after the checkered flag, gets out and says, "Hey," starts popping. I need a beer, and then he shotguns a beer. Yeah. There and
that was one of other things throughout the weekend.
I figured you probably heard about that.
Well, no, the problem that didn't even make the top 10.
Oh, it didn't. Okay, all right. Okay, he may have stopped somewhere else then. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I've known Robbie forever. And
Wait, it wasn't Robbie.
No, it wasn't Robbie. No.
I'll
tell you the story off there.
Yeah.
So Robbie and I have been friends forever. It goes back to our NASCAR days. Quick story with Robbie. He drove me crazy to drive our Busch car forever. At this point in time, we were sponsored by Kimberly Clark. He was driving, I guess, for Childress in the Cup Series. So we did a deal at Dover. It's like, all right, you can drive. So I'm up on the spotter stand. So Kimberly Clark, as part of their sponsorship, they rotated brands throughout the year, and that included like an in-store promotion with different convenience stores and things like that. Practice fixing to start. Robbie won't go on the track. And they're, hey, Robbie's not going to drive the car. I'm like, why is he not driving the car? Well, he's not going to drive it because it's the Depends car. So Kimberly Clark was going through the Depends sponsorship. I was like, no, he's just kidding. I was like, no, he's literally not going to drive the car. So we had like an hour standoff, missed the whole first practice because Robbie refuses to drive a car because it's Depends brand. So we completely.
I'll give you my cell number.
So we completely rewrap a car between first and second practice. So we had a wrap in the hauler for next week's race. It was like Shop Rags in a Box, which is another Kimberly Clark brand. So again, I'm just trying to like lay low. Hey, maybe we can get by. Kimberly Clark will never see this. It's like lap 2, Robbie wrecks Tony Raines. Tony Raines waits on the side of the track, throws a helmet at him, hits the Depends logo, square, leads Sports Center that night. I'm like,
yeah, this is like, I wanted to be on the DL.
Robbie is one of the best marketers, and he wore me out forever to come to Nashville. And we started the negotiations have gone for a year. And we were just trying to do less racing versus more for first year because we wanted to. And he kept saying, this will be the best thing. People remember, I was like, I know they will. And finally, it kills me. As after the race is over, everybody, what's your favorite thing? The trucks. The trucks.
Well, I think it was because I'd seen him on TV, but TV doesn't do it justice. Yeah. I mean, when you're there in person, it's insane. And I think, and again, never having seen him at a different track, but when they're coming down the bridge to make that turn 9, and he's got the front right locked up for like 600 feet, it's crazy. It was cool.
Well, when he does his thing too, where he drives on 2 wheels for like an entire straight, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I'll show you a video when we wrap up, and maybe you can post it. So Robbie drove his truck to Broadway Saturday night and did donuts out in front of Tootsie's for about 2 minutes. Completely smoked out. Yeah. Cut one of our fences to get his car up there. But that's just Robbie.
This is Robbie.
Why am I not surprised?
Not surprised.
Yeah.
The ultimate showman.
But it was good. I mean, that was the most interesting because I've seen everything else, for me. So I'd never seen that before, and it just blew me away. But I thought racing overall was incredible. I like when we drove the track, and I thought the layout was great. It was fast. It was technical, and
it was. I was concerned about the area over there on the other side of the water.
Yes. Making that real tight.
But it became really cool. They had no problems over there other than maybe the first couple of laps of TA2 practice. I was amazed, and the feedback, the drivers loved kind of the technical aspect of that. And I thought the TA2 cars put on a great show.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, it's a huge car count. One of our owners, Justin Marks, ran top 5 all day. Scott Borchetta ran good all day. He had technical issues towards the end, but I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, I do too. I thought the TA race was fantastic. Yeah. They really put on a great show, and we're here with Showtime Motorsports and Ken Twaits and Franklin Road Apparel, and he starts in the back, works his way up, gets spun out a couple times, but that was a great show. And then watching the Indy race, other than I think it got off to a rough start, and I don't know if you guys how much you have spoken about that or what happened there, but I think once they got it figured out, then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of that just led down to the restart point. The restart point was the whole thing. It was, it worked great to start the race. The other series started on the bridge as well.
Yep.
It gave them time and space, and not speaking for IndyCar, but I'm assuming that's something that we looked at hard for, as far as next year goes. And I've had some interesting feedback for I've heard some interesting feedback through our track designer Tony Kottman from some legendary IndyCar drivers about how to maybe reshape one of the corners, which is a very wide corner of the entrance into turn 9. Is like maybe if they narrowed that down, it would make different braking points for the guys, which would change how that corner's raced because everybody's braking at the same point because it's so wide. So I thought that was kind of cool. But the bridge was cool. I mean, again, the bridge was what I thought it was going to be. Bumpy, but these are the best drivers in the world. I mean,
they run at Detroit and Long Beach and some other places that we drove at the expansion joints, in St. Pete, and I mean. I didn't see it was on par with those places, I think. And I thought it was one and we talked about this, Matt, and maybe some guys picked up on it, but obviously you talk about the restart zone. But I picked up on what Colton was doing when he was leading the race, and maybe you did too, that he would back the field up, and guys weren't losing pit because they were backing the field up. They would get all strung out, and then the leader would come in, make the pit stop, and only lose like 2 spots.
Yeah.
Is IndyCar? I mean, are they?
Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting there watching. I said, good. Kudos to him.
Yeah.
For whoever figured that out.
Yeah.
Because they figured something out there on backing the field up and then speed into pit. Not speeding, but
Sure.
accelerate to pit lane at that point.
Yeah, I hated it for him. He had such a great.
Oh yeah, that was
he had a good car.
Such a bummer.
I mean, it's great. I mean, obviously anybody that's going to be our inaugural winner is great, but that
Yeah.
was Colton's a superstar. I mean, he's
going to be the headliner for IndyCar for years to come.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think IndyCar's got so much momentum right now.
Oh, I do too.
I think the kind of the guys coming down from Formula One could be incredibly interesting. I mean, Grosjean I think has been great, and maybe that becomes a standard for other folks. And again, I go back to something as chaotic as Netflix, but the American motorsports right now is being helped so much because of the Netflix, the show, the Drive to Survive show.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really know the difference between IndyCar and Formula One.
Right.
I think it's great for the sport. As a father of a 14-year-old daughter, she's fallen in love with racing because of Drive to Survive, and I think the more people that are stories like Grosjean coming back to the series. I mean, obviously Kimi Räikkönen announced his retirement today. I don't think he'd be coming to IndyCar, but gosh, you never know.
Yeah, I mean he's run all kinds of stuff. So you don't doubt that. Now you see Grosjean, he's signed with Andretti this week. So I mean, now guys that are running last, like. They want to come over here. I mean, as a driver, and this is from running the team, you just want to be able to compete.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You don't want to run last. That's not what you want to do. But if you can compete for wins, and Grosjean made that decision, now they see that because he was over at the race. I saw a picture. He was over at the race this weekend. So I'm sure guys were asking him, how is it over there?
And I think Alex Albon was in the pit at Indianapolis a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that's cool for the sport. And again, you got some young. It's not the same people winning every week.
No.
Yeah, which is great. And as Nashvilleians, we obviously have Joseph Newgarden competing for a third championship right now. So sports are a great spot, and I think there's a lot of factors. But obviously, as I always tell people, if Roger Penske owns the coffee shop next to your house, it's going to be a better coffee shop than it was the day before. So Roger buying IndyCar is in a stronger spot today because of his ownership.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that statement. And for Nashville, for the Music City Grand Prix to get in, timing is everything, and it looked like there were going to be some serious challenges with that and how the race came off. But again, the way it played out, it just, I mean, people were so excited just to go do, and to be able to go to that race and be a part of that, the inaugural race. And I know you. Not that you made special plans to get back, but it was important for you to get back on Sunday.
I caught a 5:30 a.m. flight.
Back
here.
Okay, other than that.
From Wisconsin. I went straight to the airport, and I wanted to be back because I wanted to see it happen.
Special.
Just like you did. I think I read some stuff on social media that you had a tear in your eye when you walked the course Sunday morning. And it's like
one of many times.
I mean, you worked way harder than I did, but just to see this happen.
It's our hometown.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to see it on display.
Yeah.
Like, this is our place, and, even I'm not driving it, this is so cool to see it happen. And it was great to see it. We were talking before pre-show that you've been to a street race that I've actually won at in Trois Rivières.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, did you take some of that stuff that this is north of Montreal for folks. For sure. I know where the street course is, but did you take some of that stuff that you saw up there?
Yeah, for sure. There, Toronto, Mexico City. I mean, all those you really kind of see. Long Beach to some degree. I've not spent a lot of time at Long Beach.
Yeah,
a ton of time at Toronto because Toronto to us has always been, hey, race around Stalker Stadium downtown, limited road closures, very walkable. So that's always kind of been. Gosh, we've probably been 4 or 5 years in a row up there. But Three Rivers is unbelievable. Just it's a party. I mean, it is an absolute party.
It's crazy.
Mexico City to some degree. Mexico City it's a fixed course, but it's in a downtown of 25 million people. So other than that, but yeah, it's and that was kind of the genesis of going to Europe for the next few weeks, is to kind of take in and see what they're doing there. If we can walk out one good idea, because we've got to continue moving the bar, and we'll obviously we got plenty of time, and we have plenty more races to experience, but we can't put our head in the sand and say, oh, okay, we did it great. And we can't learn anything from anybody else. I think that would be so short-sighted.
Oh, absolutely. But you've also got huge momentum, to carry this for the next, couple of years and way beyond that. I mean, we all think it's going to go way, way beyond that. But, so to go and find other ideas, like you said, just to tweak this part of it and tweak that part of it and make that experience better. And
it doesn't have to be motorsports. It can be golf, or it can be football, or it can be concerts.
Just hospitality.
How are they doing hospitality different?
Yeah.
Because there is such a demand right now for corporate hospitality, and demand is great, but standards are very high, and you can't miss the mark.
True.
And so you got to learn from I always use Augusta as a gold standard because they do everything better. Bathroom security, it doesn't matter what it is. Augusta does it better. And if you could take a small snippet out of what they do, that's great learning tools.
And if you can have fun while you're doing it, why not?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I was with Mike Gillespie, who was, a big part of this whole deal too. And I think the Monday or Tuesday afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, my phone's been ringing like crazy. When can we sign up for corporate suites next year?" And he's like, "Hold on, we're just trying to debrief from this year."
It was funny.
It's a good problem to have.
Here's the glamorous side of motorsports. So I had a motor coach in the ops area. Yeah. So I'd been down there,
living down there
10 days.
Yeah, right.
But my family came into town like Wednesday, so I left everything in the motorhome, but I would go into downtown and stay with them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So so the race was over, and everything's in this motorhome. Literally, because when I moved, I was like, I threw everything in the biggest bag I had. I was like, let's go.
Yep.
So so race gets over on Sunday night. Go put on some gym shorts and a T-shirt to go watch the Opry show, flip-flops. I sweated through 7 shirts. It was crazy the number of shirts I'd gone through on Sunday. So I go to the Opry show, I walk into downtown. So my daughter has a golf tournament in Chattanooga on Monday morning. So she and my wife wake up early, like 5 o'clock, to head to Chattanooga. So I'm wide awake at that point in time. So I'm just going to go start walking down to go to the track. Yeah. So I'm walking over the bridge, and the ops center is completely gone, been completely cleaned out. I'm like, so first of all, I had no idea where this motorhome came from. I was told I have a motorhome that's yours.
Yeah.
So now it's gone. Everything to my name is in there. My wallet, everything.
Oh.
So I have literally at this point in time, I have no, and another funny piece of the story, like Monday of that week, I was actually over to La Quinta, and did something stupid with my key, my car, so my battery was dead, but I didn't go anywhere for a week, so I didn't care. So now I'm walking over the bridge, everything I own is gone, I have no idea where this is gone. I was like, I'll go to my car. I was like, oh yeah, it's dead. I don't have a wallet. About the time my phone rings, and it was the general manager of the 7-Eleven down on the corner of Turn 9. So they were going to try to open at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I guess there have been so many people there. The trash was just unbelievable. And the coordination of when parking lots were getting picked up. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll head down there. So literally it's now 5:20, and I am flip-flops, T-shirt, and picking up trash at the 7-Eleven for like 3 hours and smiling ear to ear. I was like, this is the glamorous side. It's so funny. I got a call like at 9 that morning. I forgot I had a radio interview. Like, oh, you got to be enjoying it this morning. I was like, let me tell you the real story.
You know where I am right now.
Yeah. So about midday, I found my motorhome, and later on, I was able to get my car started. So it was a fun post. It was the glamorous side of it, man.
That's right. That's racing for you.
Right.
Yeah, but after an event like that, you just smile and take it in stride.
Exactly.
Yeah. The fun stuff about it. And talk about that. You had the gas station was down there. Obviously, it didn't have business. The La Quinta was down there. And then I'm going to go back to as far as the event.
Best Western, too. Yeah, so there's
you guys, basically paid them for the weekend because they were shut down.
That's one of the things that makes Nashville incredible is a lot of these races have, 20 business interruptions. We basically had 3. 2 of them were hotels, which we were able to buy out and resell, which was great. Great partner. Both, and all 3 great partners.
Yeah.
And the folks with 7-Eleven were, great as far as to work with.
Were they still open? I didn't.
Yeah, because you can't really have an environment where people can go buy beer there and take it out there. So they were great. We came to a fair arrangement as to what their business interruption was, and it wasn't like I've heard horror stories of other cities who think they have you hostage and they're going to negotiate. It's like, it's good for Nashville. It's good for all of us.
Yeah, that's great.
And I would argue their exposure was as good as anybody.
Yeah, right.
They were down in one corner. It was. Yeah. So it was great to work with. But, we'll see. Over the course of time, there's going to be building in downtown that we're going to interrupt at some point in time. But, the beauty of our track is the majority of our linear footage is over a body of water, and we're never going to have neighbors to deal with there. So that's the beauty of this track and track design. And I'll give Mayor Cooper credit. He's the first mayor of this whole process. Is, hey, why aren't we racing over the bridge? I was like, well, because I've been told no by everybody else. So. he saw the vision, and and again, I go back to the money shot.
Oh,
People
yeah.
seeing the bridge, which has become our identifying landmark globally, versus, some of the other East Bank, which is probably not the best visual that you want to show the world. And so
no, because I was involved when Joe was in. You guys had a meeting 7-8 years ago that it was just around this Titan Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and internally I said, man, we got to get downtown involved somehow because it was just around. It was just a parking lot race almost. And I was like, this is not going to go over.
So what's going to happen? I'm assuming on the city side of the water, like you said, where the Copper Kettle used to be, there's got to be something going on there.
Yeah.
Eventually, that's going to disrupt.
Yeah, but there's. I can't get too far into it. The track will be different year 3 and beyond, and it'll be, when I say different, incredible.
Okay.
A little modification of some construction that's going on there. And how the course will route and reroute onto the bridge is going to be pretty spectacular. And,
Good.
And fortunate enough, the developers have allowed our track people to be kind of involved in their development, so we're kind of hand in glove as to what they're doing. So,
oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's a.
It's just the
is
beauty
that
of
unusual?
Nashville.
I was going to say, is that just something that's because of Nashville and the way it is and the way that the city just responds to events? And
I think my experience in Nashville, and this is different from other cities. I've done some big events in other cities, and other cities kind of take it as this is the last star that's ever come into this city, and we better all fight for it. Versus Nashville's like, hey, rising tide, lifts all ships, and that has been the norm from, we've got great partnerships on Broadway to just the people who we kind of interrupt their day to day. It's as long as they know and it's messaged, they've been great. So again, it's just Nashville. I mean, I go back to. The initial meeting with Mr. Penske that Butch Spiridon was there, and Mr. Penske's going through why street races don't work. And, Butch finally piped up and said, Mr. Penske, you just never done business in Nashville. He goes, this is what we do. He said, we're not a shipping city. We're not an auto city. We're an event city. And event cities
can do it.
Can do it.
Did you see the draft?
Just go back to the draft.
Yeah.
Which you just crushed everything from the NFL's perspective.
Or just go back to any event in downtown.
Oh, yeah. CMA Fest. I mean,
go back to the hockey playoffs.
Oh, incredible.
We had 400,000 people downtown.
Incredible.
Yeah. And one thing I thought was really cool, Matt, that you guys did, so the grandstand on the outside of Turn 9, I guess, was it not set up the first day or 2 days?
First 2. That's tough.
Through Saturday.
But that wasn't, it was a supplier issue, but you guys refunded those folks.
Yeah, for sure, and moved them into other spots.
Yeah.
It was tough. I mean, it was a very stressful morning on Saturday morning. We were trying to figure out what is the go forward, and I was like, we gotta give our chance. We gotta give ourselves a chance. Let's and to me, I don't even harp on it because it didn't happen. But the visual of an empty green grandstand would have been tough.
Yeah.
But everybody put their boots together. Doug Bowles, track president at IMS. I mean, he's out there with the crew on Saturday night because he had a relationship with the vendors. Like, this is not going to – I mean, it's just like –
yeah, I know these guys. I'm going to make it work. Yeah.
And that's – so we've quickly learned as new promoters, I mean, what a family IndyCar is and how it's not like other even sanction bodies where everybody's fighting over sponsors fighting, teams are sponsoring over this dollar versus the tracks versus the sanction body versus, every other stakeholder versus IndyCar is kind of it's good for us. It's good for, it's good for our sport. And I think every one of them would say that Nashville's good for the sport right now.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there'll be not a lot of unsponsored cars when they come back to Nashville next year.
Well, yeah, you guys had. I mean, I think that's why the corporate sales were up. I mean, as far as the suites and everything, and it's interesting. I mean, and I think the title sponsorship of Big Machine was perfect. And I don't know. I mean, I know Scott a little bit. Obviously, you do too. He's an investor in this. I mean, how is that relationship? That knowing that Scott's part of the ownership, but then on the other side, you have to kind of change hats. That he's
and it was
as the Big Machine.
It was probably a 6-month negotiation because I mean, again, we had to be very, very. Protective, not protective, but this event, Scott's an incredible part of our ownership group. He brings such a passion. He brings such an experience for events, but it had to work for the overall history or longevity of the event. And, we've always looked at this as a music, motorsports, food, all things natural, cultural event. And, Big Machine's a game changer as it pertains to music over the last decade in Nashville. And fortunate enough, they have some new brands. Their spiked vodka pouches are incredible. So to be able to have like a real commercial brand that, not in the title, but in the promotions that really just fit hand in glove. And he was excited. It's been great. It's been great to really get to know him better over the last year and really just see. I mean, he said race day was one of the greatest days of his life.
Yeah.
And these are people who have experienced a lot. And it's fun. It was fun for me to see that through a lot of our owners. I mean, we've got guys who have incredible game changers in a lot of industries, and just to watch like kids. It's funny that the first day we started putting down block, I sent pictures to all of our guys and just the text message chain. I was like, I've never seen a group of adult males so happy about owning some concrete blocks.
Right? With fencing going up.
Fencing up.
Yeah.
Around the street.
I
don't know. I found myself driving through town down Shelby, going over the bridge.
Yeah, that was getting to scare me towards those later days. Like, man, let's get this road closed. People are driving.
Yeah.
I mean, our track designer was telling me, he's like, there's a guy over here in a red Ferrari like every afternoon. He's like, and he is going to bust it at some point in time.
Oh, well, we took it pretty easy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I didn't go too fast.
Yeah. I took so the funny thing. So the day after we announced, I got a call from Vince Neal of Motley Crue, and I was a huge '80s rock fan. Vince lives in Leapers Fort, and huge IndyCar.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I played golf with him. I think before we did Jason's.
Oh, no, really?
Oh yeah, we played golf together, and he's got Dixon. He's good buddies with Dixon, which I didn't know that. So
his memorabilia collection's
it's crazy.
Race worn, Schumacher suits, and I mean it's incredible. So he was like, hey, we're gonna do a couple laps. This is way before we started putting down concrete. So we're gonna shoot some video, and like he's going over the bridge. He's like, hey, we're just out here. There's really no police.
It's still a street.
Yeah. But he has been so great to work with, and he such a huge fan. And actually, I was texting him today trying to play golf this week. So he's played. Actually, he's playing Long Beach coming up. He was such a great part of our event.
Yeah.
He killed it on Friday night too.
Did he kill it?
Oh, it's killed it.
Yeah, because he raced. Indy Lights, and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I played with him, because you got to know him over 18 holes and stuff, and like I didn't realize like he raced as much as he did and stuff, and we were chatting about it. It was a lot of fun. So
we've gotten to watch a few races, some Sunday morning races out at his place right now. So he's a motorhead. So
yeah, that's cool. That's neat. You've got the right people involved, and with Scott being in it, because Scott, I've read in an interview, which is true because I know him, his passion for the sport. He's not going anywhere as far as title sponsorship. He loves this sport, and he's not a golfer or whatever. He wants to be involved in the sport. And
he brings so much to the table. It was great. We sat down, I guess, last Friday, and just kind of put on not the sponsor hat, but from an owner and from a promoter point of view, here's how we make it better. Yeah, and it's fan zone, just moving stages. It's the expertise that, as I said, because fortunately, we were very attractive to people that wanted to get involved. As it got closer, and not all investors are equal. Ones that bring that kind of expertise and passion are different than others. And I'd put our group up against anybody. From Dale Jr. to Justin Timberlake. It's an incredible group. So.
Well, I think that's the thing about Nashville, and this is one of the reasons why we started a podcast, is the motorsports enthusiasm here is huge.
It's a motorsports town now.
Yeah.
Not just a music town.
No, I agree. Well, I think now it's really going to come to the surface, I think.
I hope you guys if you don't know, get to spend time with Justin Marks, because if you're talking about what's going to fix NASCAR, it's more Justin Marks.
Yeah.
You're talking about forward-thinking, young, passionate people that think a lot further ahead than most. And, the more of him, taking more leadership roles in NASCAR was the best thing ever for the sport. So, and he's an incredible addition to our city, and could not be more proud to have him as an owner, because he's, great guy. What he does off the track is unbelievable. So.
Yeah, we're going to have him on because I've raced against Justin in IMSA, and I didn't realize he was living here till Ken kind of told me. He's like, oh, yeah, and then I read that he's part of the investment group.
Ty Norris.
And I'm like,
here now.
Oh, well, yeah. It's like, I didn't realize he moved here, but we're definitely, he's on our list to have on because he's bought Ganassi's,
that was a funny day, though. So we, the day that he technically, I guess, bought Ganassi, maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but I don't care. It's out there. So so we flew. We were announcing that we were going to name our pole award after Brian Clausen. Brian's, known Brian forever.
Explain Brian. I know Brian, but maybe the people that are listening don't.
Brian Clausen's legendary sprint car driver. Just a true racer. Yeah. A guy that races 150 nights a year. So the 5th anniversary of our pole day was August the 7th, which is the 5th anniversary of Brian's death. So Brian passed away in a wreck in Knoxville, but it was somewhere
like that, a
there.
dirt track, yeah.
And unbeknownst to anybody else, he had signed up to be an organ donor. Mm-hmm. So since that time, that's become his family's mission. His family, the Clausen family, is the gold standard in sprint car racing. They're just incredible people. So, I mean, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Well, first of all, Brian, I think 7 people received organs and another 10 or 20 received tissue. They, as a family, have a relationship with the heart donor, with the heart recipient, the liver recipient, I think the lung recipient. So, funny and interestingly enough, in my management company, we had represented Brian at this point in time. So when it fell on our poll, I was like, man, this won't mean a lot to the Nashville community, but in the garage, honoring Brian because he is a racer's racer. It's like, why don't we just name our pole award after Brian and honor him every year and do an organ donation sign-up program on property. And this is how I forget about things. And so Liz Allison, who is one of our biggest, keyest team members we have, so I asked her, I was like, hey, we're going to meet with the Clausens, and all of a sudden, I get 5 minutes to introduce her to the Clausens, and all of a sudden, they're crying because I'd forgotten. Obviously, Davey was an organ donor. Liz had to make the decision. So also, this became very personal to us as an organization to really wrap our arms around this. So we're flying up to Indianapolis to do the announcement. Justin was a good friend with Brian. Actually, Justin ran a Brian Clausen tribute car in the Trans Am racer, the TA2 racer. Okay. So Justin flies up with us. So after the announcement, this is the first day of Indy practice for the 500 this past year. Justin said, hey, I'm going to go walk around for a little while. So he wanders off for a couple hours. We're watching racing. It was incredible for Liz. The first time Liz had been to the Brickyard. But Davey was the first car when NASCAR went to the Brickyard.
To do that test.
He was the first car on track that day. Now, he passed away prior to the race, but he was the first NASCAR on track there. So it was incredibly cool to kind of experience that with her. So anyway, we fly home, and, he's, I was just, out talking to people, ran to Chip, blah, blah, blah. So fly home, like literally 6 weeks later, announce he buys Ganassi.
That's where he wandered off.
I was like, did you buy Ganassi that day? He's like, yeah. He's like, I was like, dude, you kept the straightest face on the flight home.
I'll be back.
Yeah. I was like, wow. I was like, man, I would not play poker again.
Yeah, I was going to not play poker with them at all. Then
it was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and I think it's good for the sport. I mean,
great for the sport.
For younger owners, and what he's done with Trackhouse, and it's just going to keep moving forward.
They just think different. And I think Brad, Kozlowski, with his role at Roush, Jeff Gordon taking more of a leadership role at Hendrick.
Hamlin,
Denny,
there's all. There's a lot of movement going right now. Yeah.
Talk about. I mean, you brought up Liz as far as her involvement. I mean, she's known in the NASCAR world for sure, but I mean, was she here locally? She has a big presence for sure, but I mean, just the IndyCar side of it, she probably doesn't have that much experience.
No, but Liz, obviously her expertise in a lot of things, but customer, dealing with customers, hospitality, attention to detail, take the racing piece out of it. And she's incredible. First of all, incredible work ethic. I mean, literally, I've never seen anybody literally outworks you, but outcares anybody. And from, God, the more stuff we turn over to her, the more it just is better. And I think I do a good job at certain aspects. Everything you give her, she's better because she just cares more.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's super cool. And again, the funniest thing, I don't people realize this. So the first race of the Music City, or the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, there was a pedal car race on Broadway on
I saw it posted. Yeah.
The winner was not only Davey Allison's grandson, but Bobby Allison's great grandson Theo won the first race here.
Awesome.
So 2 NASCAR.
The Allisons win.
It was a close race, and it wasn't fixed. But
the Hueytown gang. Yeah, they come to Nashville and win.
Yeah, he was competitive. I would not want to have dealt with him had he lost. So
it was like, give me that trophy. Let's have a rematch.
That was pretty cool.
No, and that was. I mean, I thought that was great that you guys utilized downtown. And that night, I wasn't there, but I mean, just like with that going on, and then I think you did an autograph session or had the cars on display downtown.
Yeah, had a pit stop competition, had a driver party. It was cool.
Yeah. You talk about the first year. I thought you guys had a good mix of Trans Am was there. Only one. I mean, you just had IndyCar. Only one open wheel series. Now, is there talks of bringing like Indy Lights here? I mean, to me, and I can give you my opinion, I think it's great you don't because it keeps the fans engaged. Oh, I know the difference between this stuff.
Yeah, especially for especially for a new event, a new city, that would be a hard one. I mean, it's like, oh, well, they look like those.
Yeah.
I think we want to be very, very careful as far as just the amount of on-track versus music time because, I mean, truly, I mean, obviously this is a motorsports event, but I have been to similar Grand Prix that I thought was way too much racing.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful about that. So I think, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the right mix is. I mean, I felt good about what we had, but we don't mind looking in the mirror and say, is there something we can do better? And it's a great point, though. You're right. The similarity of cars, I think, is confusing.
It is. Oh, for the average fan, like Donovan, you said you were there with folks that never been to a race. I mean, Matt, we're in it, and Donovan, you're in it. But it's like if an Indy Lights car comes out, hey, that looks the same.
Yeah.
And I think, and again, who knows? I mean, the nationwide, Xfinity Nationwide Busch Series has been successful over time, but maybe that has been an issue that, these cars look very similar to what races on Sunday, and who knows? But I will give IndyCar credit too, is I just think for where the American, or just non-American, consumer in general is going with the amount of attention span right now, the time window is really, really good. I mean, I think that's, 2 hours, people will commit to that. I mean, obviously, always come back. Formula One's done it right for a long time, people. Let's don't.
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah, because they could show up there. I mean, we did it differently as far as I wanted to take my boys down there, and we showed up for the warm-up.
Sure.
The trucks, I wanted to kind of do all that. We went home and watched the race on TV because he is kind of tapped out. But if somebody showed up in the afternoon, 2 hour window was perfect. Yeah. It was not a problem at all.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree.
Put some music on the front, music on the back, and go at it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Donovan, anything else, man?
No, I'm good. This is incredible. We're going to do a lot more of this because it's here to stay. So, and thank you for spearheading this, Matt, years and years ago, and keeping the your thumb on it and moving it forward, because it's easy to especially in a political environment and when you're working, well, what do you say, 4 different mayors, and everything changes every time there's a change in in politics. So to stick with it and to move it forward, thanks for that, and pulled it off. I mean, that was a home run. So
well, again, this is just the city of Nashville. I mean, this exists because of the city of Nashville. And I had the same conversation with one of the prominent downtown bar owners. He was thanking me. He was like, "This is incredible for our city." I was like, "Listen, we just extended what you guys built 20 years ago on Broadway. I mean, that's this race had, I'll even define it down to the Broadway honky tonk owners. Had they not created that just got the ball rolling. Yeah. Now you got Predators and Titans, but that's kind of what started it.
What feeds off of that. Yeah. And I see that, and Donovan, as you travel, and I travel in and out of town to our stuff, it's like, I'm coming back in town, and people they're coming here. I mean, like you say, on a Tuesday, I've seen bachelorette parties come in here on Monday, or I'm flying home on a Monday, and they're staying here during the week now.
Yeah.
And not just Thursday.
Because they can't get in on the weekend.
They can't get it and it's cheaper for them to come here. So it's not just Thursday or Friday, but I'm flying out on a Thursday. Yep. Waiting to get on my plane, and they're coming off on an 8 o'clock flight. They're coming off the plane, and they're going right down to Broadway.
They're ready to go.
And
they're pre-gaming on the flight.
It's on Thursday morning. The airport's packed. It's like, what is going on around here?
Well, that's the beautiful thing for a 3-day event like that is people there's something to do. When you leave the track, you're not just going, okay, well, let's go grab something to eat somewhere. And Nashville's the place.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's what you've been to Toronto, and I've been to Detroit and Long Beach, and I knew it's like as you were working on this vision that I saw several years ago that I knew this was going to just take off. This will be eventually, Donovan. This will be the biggest race for IndyCar street race. Period. Other than the 500, this will be the biggest race because what we have here is an event city, and we don't have it anywhere else. Period.
And I would, again, and I think we're close to that. I'm not, don't want to be. Arrogant, but I think
no, I'll be it for you.
Yeah, we'll do it for you. We'll do your own.
I'll do it for you.
No, I think we're close.
Yeah.
Well, it's been awesome. I appreciate you coming on this show. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll stay in touch and keep us updated on things as they happen, and maybe we'll see out.
The one thing I won't call about tire pressure on a short track.
I'm your guy, man.
This guy, but,
that's good stuff. Maybe we'll see you around to some other events around Nashville and outside of the IndyCar Motorsports realm.
Look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.